Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is a video I have been wanting to do for a little while. I'm gonna move my little piles closer to myself, but it's about why do we feel like we need to buy palettes that we already have? You could do this argument, you know, a nude palette is a nude palette is a nude palette, and people feel compelled to buy nude palettes over and over and over. But it happens with colorful palettes, and I have two prime examples with some others that we'll discuss, and I think it's an interesting conversation, and I've mentioned the thought process behind it a little bit when I talked about this palette in my Gourmand Girls, maybe my ranking video. This is one of their newer ones. This is the Nueva Vida palette. We'll go into it a little bit more, but when we know that we have that color story and there's a struggle, why do we end up giving in and buying it anyway? So let's have that conversation. This is gonna be a little bit chatty. Make sure you get a drink, a snack, fold some laundry, something. And if you're new, welcome. Make sure you take a moment, subscribe, come back, and let's go. I will be throwing myself under the bus. I have a little, this is just carbonated water. Nothing exciting because it's only 1:25 in the afternoon, and I do have to go pick up my kids at some point this afternoon. But get a beverage if you don't have one. So let's talk about the first palette. And again, like I said, I'm going to throw myself under the bus, but I talked about this a couple of times. I think I talked about it in my haul video when I first showed it, and then I talked about it when I did my Gourmand Girls ranking video. That's already up on my channel. Go check that out if you haven't seen it. But this is what the inside looks like. You've got a couple of deep shades. What is this, a brown? I haven't used this palette yet. There's a dark blue, a brown, and a raspberry shade. So you can definitely deepen things up in multiple, like, different looks. And then you've got all these neon shades. It looked pretty pastel on like the pictures, but the green and the orange for sure are super bright. And the shimmers in here are really pretty. However, I absolutely did not need this palette because it is very reminiscent of the Escape Pod from Kaleidos. And I did talk about this briefly in a video. One of the videos where I talked about this palette, because this palette was so pretty. I thought it was really pretty when I saw pictures of it on Instagram, and I went back and forth, and this is the palette that came to mind. Like, I knew I didn't need it. I was like, that looks very similar to the Escape Pod. So here's the Escape Pod. Now you only have one really deep shade. Again, it's a brown, and there is a taupey shade in Bossa Nova, and then you have a bunch of bright shades. Now I would argue that the peachy coral and the orange are very similar and didn't both need to be in here. And then this green is a little bit lighter. This leans a little more olivey, like dirty money leaning, but again, very similar. Didn't need both of those in here. So I know that's a gripe that people have had with this palette. And then I heard people have trouble with this periwinkle shade. I don't think I ever did. Exoplanet is what it's called, but I've had that palette for a long time. But holding them side by side, now they're not identical because there's a lot of eyeshadow on the market. There's a lot of stuff that's come out. I think a company would be hard pressed at this point in the game to come up with an entirely unique color story that's absolutely never been done. So this is no shade at either brand, but you can see I could have lived without this palette. Are these formulas different? 100% they are different. Let's swatch. Just to give you an idea, like the shimmers are different. Kaleidos used to be my favorite brand, and they've kind of fallen off. They do a lot of quads nowadays. So there's Kaleidos's green, and we're not looking at tone. We're just looking at formula, sparkle, like that kind of thing. I think the one from Gourmand Girls is a lot more reflective. So there is a formula difference. So one could argue that I needed both because they're different formulas. But realistically, could I have gotten a similar look out of this with you know, similar look to this out of this? Sure. And if I needed a raspberry or a navy shade, do I have one in other palettes? Probably do. Why did I feel, and I went back and forth for a while, and I finally caved and bought it because it was just so pretty. The next one is one that I have talked about that I said I did not need because it was very similar to this one. That would be the Silent Night from Gourmand Girls. Now, they did have a sale going, so I got this. It was originally $55, $56. I got it for $26, so huge discount. She was in the process of clearing out some older palettes because she's got new stuff that's going to be coming out. But here's the inside. I don't wear a ton of blue. I don't gravitate towards blue. I've been wearing blue a little bit more recently just to force myself out of my comfort zone. But there's a lot of neutral. You've got a couple of browns. There's actually a black in here. Some more brown. You could go pretty neutral. I do like the pop of matte yellow, but now is this as bright of yellow? No. But you do, again, have a matte yellow and a shimmery yellow. And then the blues, and then you've got some browns. This came out first. Again, this is no shade towards anybody, but I already had this. I had bought this over Christmas. I didn't get it the year before when they launched it. They did Christmas Eve and Christmas morning. I only bought Christmas, or the Merry Christmas, excuse me. And so they relaunched those palettes last year. Now, I don't think they're bringing these back again, so this is gone, unfortunately, but I ended up picking this one up this year because I didn't get it the year before. So I knew I had this. I have not used it still have not used it. So when this one was launched at Christmas, I was like, I don't need it. I know it's a similar color story to this. I have this one already. I'm fine. The only reason I bought it was because it was on sale, and the completionist in me. So now I have all of her rectangular palettes because I have grown to really like Gourmand Girls formula. I didn't know if I liked them that well in the beginning, at least their mattes, but they have grown on me significantly. I have a lot of their palettes. So I picked it up. Did I need to pick it up even though it was on sale? Absolutely not, because as you saw, the color stories are very similar. They're not exactly the same. This definitely has a brighter yellow in it, but could I have gotten that yellow in another palette? Probably. Back to that original. Yes, I could have, but here we are. And then two that I had bought recently, I got them on the Sephora sale. These were marked down to $30 a piece, plus I got the extra discount on top of it. So what I paid for the two of these together is what one palette would have cost. So that was a good deal. Did I need these? These are the Melt. If you're not familiar, this is Christmas Town. And what are you? Halloween Town. Absolutely did not need them. Obviously, I like The Nightmare Before Christmas and I like horror themed. But did I need them? No. This is the Christmas one. These are huge palettes, by the way. And what is this? Halloween. I got them. I liked them. I don't love Melt's formula. I like Melt's formula. I don't think their formula is worth what they charge. So if I'm going to get a Melt palette, it's going to be on sale. I will never again pay full price for a Melt palette, but these were really, this was a good deal and I couldn't pass it up. This is the only thing that I got during the Sephora sale. But again, did I need them? Absolutely not. Am I ever even going to use these? That's questionable at this point. I have like 300 palettes, probably. Because here's a good example. My husband bought me these, and I've used this one a handful of times. I've only used this one once. These are the Beetlejuice palettes. So we've got Recently Deceased and The Waiting Room. These were like a Halloween collection a couple of years ago. My husband was nice enough and bought me the whole box because he really liked the collection. So The Waiting Room looks like this, and it very much looks like the Freddy Krueger palette, which I happen to have back here. And I did talk about this palette during the video where I discussed, that's the green one. Palettes with similar, usually when I do glam light reviews, I show you palettes with similar color stories. So again, because I already owned The Waiting Room, I didn't necessarily need this. I 100% bought this for the packaging. I don't wear a ton of red eyeshadow. This is a little more burgundy leaning. I should probably use this more, but I don't wear a ton of red. So that's partially why. And then I bought these as a bundle, the 2 palettes together, I'm pretty sure. I don't think they were sold separately when I bought them, but 100% bought these for the packaging. So we've got the Freddy Krueger. Again, didn't need it because it's an almost identical color story to this, and I never use this one. And then the Recently Deceased is the traditional purple and greens. And again, I like the formula of these. The packaging is cool. I still have the boxes that these go in somewhere in my room, but like I was saying with the red one, I knew the Nightmare on Elm Street, I didn't need both palettes, but I bought them as a bundle, so here we are. And I know I have a lot of similar color stories because, like I said, when I do my glam light videos, I show you palettes that are similar color stories. Like here's another good example. Where did it go? I lost it again. That's the Kiss palette. So I had this palette to start with. I don't know if I'm ever going to get this video filmed, so I'll show it again here. I had this palette to start. This is the Escape Pod. Not the Escape Pod. That was the other palette. This is the Club Nebula, Kaleidos and Angelica Nyquist collab. This palette, I think, came out before Escape Pod. So here's the color story. You've got some taupes, some kind of reddy shades, some blue, some green. Very pretty. I really like this palette. I think Angie did a good job on it. There's something stuck to it. Okay. So we have that. And then what came next? Probably Sugar and Grunge from Blend Bunny. Now she has discontinued this palette. There was some dispute over the licensing of the word grunge, which I'm pretty sure the entire 90s decade would be recalled. But needless to say, she did get rid of this palette. But it's a very similar vibe as far as tones. You've got greens, taupes, and purple, blue. This is obviously larger, but you got similar tone, like you could get a similar vibe. Those are also very similar to, what is this? The Friday the 13th. I think this, the Escape Pod, the Sugar and Grunge, again, you've got taupes, some dingy greens, blues, reds. Very, very similar vibe to what's going on in here. It can be difficult sometimes to see because you got flowery packaging and dark packaging, but if you look past it, again, you can get a very similar place. Is it going to be exactly the same? No. And their formulas are different, so you could have the argument, I need all of the palettes because the formulas. It's the argument, like I said in the beginning, with the nude palettes. How many nude palettes do we need? But people tend to buy them because they're pretty. Again, different formulas. Well, then I recently got the Kiss palette. It was on sale on TikTok. I got sucked in. But again, this is a larger version of what we have going on here. Now, I don't think the shades, looking at it, because I haven't... Excuse me, I haven't used either of these, but looking at the greens, they're not exactly the same. Like the green that's in the Jason palette is like in between the greens in here. Same thing with this shade. It's going to fall kind of in between these. But again, this is a condensed version of what's going on in the Kiss palette. So did I need this? Absolutely not. What I thought was pretty was like this row, which I don't even wear purples that much. So why did I buy this palette? Because it was on sale and I thought it was pretty. Did I need it? Absolutely not. I do like though, and I just noticed that all of the deeper shades are kind of on this outer edge, which is nice. And then there is actually, it's a shimmer, but there's actually a lighter. Glam Light tends to stay pretty mid-range as far as tones. So I like that they tried to go light for Glam Light, but again, absolutely did not need this palette at all. And again, we're in the same realm, even closer to Club Nebula. Again, it's got some more oranges, but depending on what color you're after, did I need that? The Kiss Palette, no, I did not need it. I didn't need this one either. One could argue that these two are okay because these are a little bit complementary of each other, a little different, but definitely didn't need all of these. And then my last little point where I'm going to throw myself under the bus. Let's fix. Oh, okay, I'll just grab these. I can fix that later. But I got a mystery box from Fantasy Cosmetica because I had been wanting to try the brand. So the two palettes that I got the larger of the two. I ended up with the Warlock palette and the Rogue, and I will show you the inside. There is the Warlock. This was their Halloween palette, I think, that they launched last year. So really pretty, really neat. And then the Rogue, and I have not used any of these. I've swatched them, but I haven't used them. So there's that. Well, I got some singles in that mystery box. There was 4. How many shades are in a palette? I think I got 4. I think I ended up with like 3 of the mattes and 1 shimmer, or like 4 mattes and 1 shimmer, but it was part of this palette. This is the Bard palette, and I was going to be good and just buy the rest of the shades that I was missing to complete the palette and then just keep them in the Z palette. It was cheaper for me to buy the standalone complete palette than it was to buy the rest of the shades, because the shimmers, they sell them for like 10 bucks a piece. So because I needed 4, this was like a $36 palette. So if you like the whole palette, it's cheaper to buy it as a palette. If you just like a couple of shades, get the singles. But I gave the singles to my friend Christine so she could try them because she hadn't tried this brand either. And then I ended up just buying the palette because I liked the colors enough to get the whole palette. And then I was like, well, there's like 3 other palettes I've been looking at. The gray one, the pink one, and then the Druid. And I ended up buying the Druid because now I'm starting the, completionist in me wants to have all of them, even though I haven't used any of these yet. Not a single one of them. So here is the Druid. But I was good. I did not buy the pink one yet. I don't know what it's called, but yeah. So I have 4 now from the brand I wanted to try. Have I used any of them? No. So why do we do this? I think some of it is brands are good at like impulse control. Like they will flood you with images and really entice. And then like with the special edition stuff, they're like, oh, if you don't get it now, you're not going to get it. Like with these are supposed to be, I think, limited edition, although they're still available and they do go on sale. But I think there's that, because I know if you want to do like a low buy or a no buy and be successful, I've seen recommendations where you unsubscribe from all of like the beauty, like let's say you're doing a low buy with beauty. I'll just use that as an example. You would want to go into YouTube and unsubscribe from all of the channels, because that's part of the problem, because like all of the channels I follow, a lot of them focus on indie brands, so they will bombard with like Fantasy Cosmetica, Glam Light, Gourmand Girls, which is why I got sucked into, this palette, because everybody was talking about it on Instagram. It was all over. So you would want to go unsubscribe from all of those channels temporarily, and then also on Instagram, unfollow all of the brands, unfollow all of the influencers, so that you're not seeing the images. Because when you see a photo of a palette that you don't need over and over, you can get like, oh, it's on sale. And here we are. But let me know what are some palettes that you've bought recently that are similar to other palettes. Let me know what those are. Like I said, I threw my own self under the bus, so these are all of mine, most recent ones. I'm sure we could go through my whole collection, and I could pull out, like Jeffree Star is one that I compare a lot of Glam Light palettes to. Because again, it's no shade at the brand, but you would be hard pressed to find a unique color story. So I have, like the green one, I have this color story over and over in my collection. So again, did I need this? Absolutely not. 100% will admit that I bought this for the horror packaging. 100%. I do like Glamlight's formula, and I truly like these better than the Kylie Nightmare on Elm Street palette that I have, because that one was terrible. I still own it. I like horror, so I'm going to keep it, but that has probably the worst green that I've ever used ever in my life, and that's saying a lot. But I do get sucked in. I've tried to be better, and I know what I would need to do to like completely rectify it, but I do like makeup, and eyeshadow palettes are my favorite, so it's one of those things. And I do go into like ebbs and flows where I had a big consumer indulgent phase, and I think I'm getting back into, I do get burned out. Like during Halloween, there was so many spooky launches, like Halloween themed palettes. I did reach a point where I was like, okay, no more, I'm done. I'm like maxed out. I don't want to see eyeshadow for a while. So I think I'm finally getting to where hopefully I'll be purchasing less, but brands have a knack of sucking people in. So I just thought this was an interesting conversation to have. Again, let me know what some palettes that you have bought recently that you didn't need that are similar to ones you already own. I would love to know. And also, again, make sure you are subscribed. If you are not, definitely come back and hang out with me. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully I will see you in another video very soon.